Before you ask, yes, this video is an excuse to talk about one of my current favorite shows on television, and no, it's not meant to be taken seriously. This video is just meant to be a gag thought experiment in the same vein as Could Batman Solve FNAF, which, if you didn't know, was also made by me. I know the majority of people who watch that were not subs. Smiling Friends, for those of you who live under a rock in between that same rock and a hard place, is an Adult Swim animated comedy series. It follows a charity organization run by Mr. Boss, whose primary goal is to make unhappy people smile. Usually this means dispatching Pim and Charlie, the overly enthusiastic and positive short guy and the fat loser straight man. And I say that with genuine love for both these characters, as well as the show. Genuinely, some of the best comedy out there at the moment. But I'm going to assume you already knew all of that, because if you didn't, why the fuck would you click on this video? But the thing is that Charlie and Pim don't always succeed. Sometimes their clients find happiness on their own, and other times they've failed altogether. So what could they possibly do to help out William Afton? William Afton is a serial killer turned undead monstrosity, revived 30 years after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closes with his bloodlust totally untempered. So we're definitely gonna have a field day with this one. So let's begin with picking when in William's life Charlie and Pim would be trying to help him. And I think I know a good time, between FNAF 3 and FNAF 6. During this time, William's whereabouts were entirely unknown, so he had plenty of leeway to decide how his story ends up. This means William will be somewhere between Springtrap and Scraptrap, and since I hate the Scraptrap design, we'll just use Springtrap. Sounds good? Sounds good. And also, yes, I'm ignoring Dark Springtrap as well. And from what we can tell, this time period should line up relatively well with the actual time period of the Smiling Friends TV show, since it's set in the modern day. There is the theory that FNAF 6 takes place in 2023, so it would still be a little out of date, but only by a handful of years. Hell, we don't know how long Charlie and Pim have been at this, so feasibly, William here could just be an earlier case of theirs. And for the sake of faithfulness to the show, we need to establish a few things up front. 1. Who makes the call? Typically, Charlie and Pim are sent on jobs by Mr. Boss, who gets a call from a client or representative of the client. Think Desmond's mother in the first episode. 2. What's the episode's B-plot? Usually while Pim and Charlie are doing their thing, there's another plot happening in the background. Think Alan eating cookie crumbs off of Mr. Boss. Why is that the first one I thought of? And 3. What is the ultimate resolution for these characters? Typically, Charlie and Pim learn something alongside the client or separate from them, even if they didn't set out to do so or even want to. For this, think about how the devil has depression, or the earth is flat, or how literally everyone killed Simon S. Salty. Some revelation that makes the characters uneasy and forces them to cope with how strange their world really is. And you know, given the subject matter, I don't think it'd be that hard to do. Our story begins at the Smiling Friends HQ, where Mr. Boss receives a call from a man named Michael Afton. You see, Michael had just survived 5 nights at Freddy's 3. He just survived 5 nights hiding from his father William, who came back as Springtrap. And of course, he's worried about his father and his homicidal ways. Since the police won't believe him, he enlists the help of the only charity that would unquestioningly chase after a zombie rabbit man to try and calm him down, and even make him smile. So Mr. Boss sends Charlie and Pim away. Meanwhile, in the office, Alan, checking his work emails as ever, is suddenly locked out by a glitchy yellow rabbit thing.
Okay, I'm not doing this right now. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Whatever.
This is our B-plot in motion. Moving on, Pim and Charlie are going to find William. And what is he up to? Well, he's slumped over in an alleyway, softly muttering and twitching in discomfort. Immediately, I want to tell you what I believe these characters' reactions would be to Springtrap. Pim is the more kind-hearted of the two, who tries to see the best in everyone and as a result is very conflict-averse. I think him seeing Springtrap like this, he'd probably focus on the fact that he's in a lot of pain, and he'd sympathize with how he ended up like this. Charlie, meanwhile, is a lot more objective and cautious when approaching strange new characters, so I think he'd inherently be on the defensive, especially since at this point they don't know anything about him other than he attacked his own son. But I think that all gets cleared up in the first conversation. We'd of course get the little "Hello, Mr. Afton" from Pim before William launches into his whole spiel. He'd tell them that ever since he's come back as this nightmarish melding of flesh and machinery, he doesn't feel alive at all. Nothing drives him but this anger he feels, and he's not even sure what he's angry at. And of course, such a plea would excite Pim and only worry Charlie further. Still, they resolve to show Mr. Afton that the feeling of being alive comes from new experiences and sharing them with loved ones, or in this case, 2 charity workers. But before they do anything, they decide to use my Gamersupps code, Demuted, to save 10% off their order. They also decide to buy GG Energy and AFK Sleep Support, for a caffeine kick or something to help you sleep at night. And they absolutely remember that is promo code DMUTED for 10% off their entire order. Moving back over to the B plot, Mr. Boss's awesome gaming laptop has stopped working. Not because it's loud as fuck and overheats like a son of a bitch, but because Glitchtrap has shown up and he's taken over here now. And as you all know, no one disrupts Mr. Boss's Overwatch 2, so he's got a problem to take care of. But it's not just Mr. Boss's computer, all of the work computers at Smiling Friends HQ have been infected. Mr. Boss needs an expert's help, and he knows just the guy. Meanwhile, Pim and Charlie take William through various places to try and recapture the feeling of being alive. At the amusement park, he starts to fall apart on the Dave coaster. At the water park, his joints rust and lock in place, and at the movies, they get kicked out because every little noise William makes sounds like this. Nothing seems to be working. Eventually, Charlie has to ask, what made William feel alive before his accident? And Will says it plainly. His work. He was a scientist on the cusp of creating new life. However, Charlie interprets this as William needs to get a job. And where's a better place to work for a living mascot than Simon S. Salty's? Keeping in mind that this episode would theoretically be before Who Killed Simon S. Salty, we're going to split the narrative here and have Pim go off to find a different way to help Springtrap while Charlie lands him a job there, since Pim had never gone to Simon S. Salty's before that episode. Soon, Springtrap is behind the counter, miserably serving customers while Charlie gives his approval. And since this is Smiling Friends, he has to put up with customers like James or Mr. Frog, who get more satisfaction out of messing with him and ruining his day than actually eating their food. And this is where Charlie will end up learning something about William. He's a violent man. After one customer leaves too many comments on how he smells like shit and looks like death, Springtrap pulls a knife and has to be escorted out of the building, of course fired from Salty's. B-plot stuff. Mr. Boss introduces Alan and Glep to one of his earliest and wealthiest clients ever, Mark Zuckerberg. He's been hired to try and wipe this nasty little virus from the Smiling Friends headquarters, and Mark explains that he'll need to link his brain to their computers to do this. One headset on a robotic billionaire later, and he is in. All this time, Pim's been trying to track down Vanessa Afton, William's youngest daughter, who he never got the chance to meet before his death. And of course, she agrees to sit down and finally have a relationship with the man who fathered her. Charlie, however, remains skeptical. He decides to take William to the restaurant first and even encourages him to talk to women.
What about that girl right there? She's beautiful. Why don't you try talking to her?
I'm so sorry. I'm the fun one. I am here to claim what is left of you. You will submit. You're mine now. A poor showing.
How could that ever work?
I have to admit, half my motivation for this video came from wanting to dub over that scene. This obviously doesn't go well, and dinner doesn't go much better, because this conversation is deader than William. They're just two different people who, although are blood related, have never been a part of each other's lives. Things get especially bad when William confesses to Vanessa the one thing that truly made him feel alive once upon a time: killing Charlie, Gabriel, Cassidy, Andrew, Susie, Jeremy, Fritz, even Vanessa's sister Elizabeth. William confesses to all of them. Finally, Pim and Charlie are on the same page.
How many people this guy killed?
This man is dangerous and things could get ugly. Across town, Mark Zuckerberg is twitching and muttering to himself. Although the computers have gone back to normal and Mr. Boss considers this a job well done, Alan is suspicious of Mark, especially when he sees him pick up a knife and walk out the door. He figures out through the power of plot-convenient writing that Mark's mind has been taken over by whatever was in their computers, and he could be out there to harm people. Glep doesn't give a shit because he can finally play Jetpack Joyride again, but Mr. Boss does agree that they should probably try and stop him. The scene at the diner could not be going worse though, as Vanessa and William heatedly argue about whether or not he deserves to be happy. But just when he lifts a knife off the table, who appears? That's right, Mark Zuckerberg. Luckily, the best Smiling Friend Tyler is there and he's ready to kick some Zuckerberg ass after getting a call from Alan. But unfortunately, Zuckerberg has mastered the shadow step and is able to get past him, feeling an odd compulsion to give his headset to Vanessa and then cut his own face off. However, in typical Smiling Friends fashion, every problem is secretly a solution to a larger, more immediate problem. Upon seeing someone else start stabbing random people in the diner, Springtrap takes immense personal offense and uses his own knife to stab Mark Zuckerberg to death. Drenched in blood and having finally worked out that rage, William looks up to see the entire diner applauding him for a selfless act of cold-blooded brutality. Springtrap cracks open the jaw of his animatronic suit, just enough for everyone to see a barely noticeable smile crossing the mouth of the skinless corpse inside of him. The Smiling friends have succeeded in the most classic fashion imaginable, somehow through random bullshit. The cool autistic gamer places a medal of bravery around his neck and our story is concluded. Post-credits, we get something of an epilogue, where we find out that Springtrap has been running around rampantly, killing muggers and home invaders because no one seems to care when they die. He's found his true calling as a senseless murderer, and best of all, he's not Charlie and Pim's problem anymore. He's learned to love his new body, preparing him for all the Dead by Daylight and Freddy Snazbear's pasta Simaria he could ask for. Now, looking back, is this how it would actually go? Probably not, but you have to realize that with something like this, you take the creative liberties you can get. No, Michael Afton isn't calling the fucking Smiling friends, and no, William is not sitting down in a diner to talk to Vanessa, and no, he's not getting cheered on by people after murdering someone in front of a crowd. But I am like 90% sure Mr. Boss knows Mark Zuckerberg. At least 90. I also wanted to emphasize what I think really makes William happy. He's a sadist through and through. The thing that makes William happy is killing. That's how it's always been and how it will always be. I was tempted to throw some other characters in there, so maybe next time we'll figure out what it takes to make the mimic smile. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.